Chapter 2. Preparing cross-stitch materials. Before you start working on your cross-stitch project, you have to remember a few things first to make sure you will be able to achieve your ultimate goal in embroidery, creating a real work of art made from cross-stitch. Consulting your checklist. If you bought your cross-stitch materials separately, instead of getting a full kit, check if you have all the needed materials before you start. Make sure you have the following before sitting down in your favorite chair and embroidering away: needles, floss thread, all colors, Ida cloth, scissors, pattern print. If you failed to get the important materials before you sit down and start working on your project, you might not be able to enjoy working on it because of the inconvenience of going back and forth. When you go shop for cross-stitch materials, you have to have the checklist with you, as well as to make sure that you have all of the needed shades of floss threads. Missing just one of them can hinder you from starting right away. Mapping out the starting point. To start stitching and sewing is different from preparing to start cross-stitching. By looking at the pattern, if you are unfamiliar with cross-stitch, you will only see black and white symbols and may find it difficult to figure out where to start. Number 1. To be able to determine your starting point, you must map the center of the pattern by looking at the size of the cloth and count how many squares there are from top to bottom and from left to right. 2. There should be a single square at the center of the cloth, which is the diversion of 4 main points of direction. That is the focal point where you should make the first stitch. Step 3. Mark that middle spot with a pencil to make sure that you won't get lost as you go on. Step 4. Check the corresponding symbol of that middle square against the printed pattern and check the legend description to identify the appropriate shade of floss thread first. Step 5. After taking these steps, you are now ready to start working on your cross-stitch project. Useful tips. Be sure to have a marker-like pencil or a ball pen to use for marking the starting point. Using a pen or pencil, mark the areas in the pattern where the stitches have been made. This would also help in pointing out the right direction to follow as you go through your project. Memorize the symbols and their corresponding legend description so that you will be more precise in choosing the appropriate floss thread to use. Be careful in reading the symbols in the printout pattern. Some printouts have blurred spots and symbols which are difficult to read. You don't want to do even a single wrong stitch because it could affect the outcome of your piece and lead to further mistakes in reading the pattern. It is much better to check the quality of the printout pattern before you buy the kit and see if the pattern is good enough and clear enough for you to read. Never skip any box from the cloth as you count them. It's not hard to miss a box because the size of the stitch boxes are too small. You can mark each count of 10, or as many as you want, on the cloth to keep you on track with the stitch count and eliminate confusion as you begin stitching the color threads.